the mic.
Get on the mic.
Just get on the mic. Get on the mic, Mike.
Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to Get on the Mic. That's where you put me in front of a microphone with a few notes and I talk about some of the more interesting things that have happened throughout the world of entertainment this week, or whatever else I feel like talking about. Today on the program, I'm going to be talking about some changes to it that are going to come later. Some of you watched the low budget live stream test I did the other day, and you kind of know where I'm going with this, but later in the show I'm going to be talking about changes that are coming to Get on the Mic for the 50th episode. This is the 49th episode of this. I can't believe I've been doing this program for almost a year now. It feels like I've been doing it for 10, considering some of the work I've had to put into it, but anyway. On the program, as usual, we're going to be starting with what is DC doing. Also, we'll be talking about if James Bond will ever be female, because now we have the answer. For now. The Walking Dead Telltale Games is another thing we're going to be talking about. Grunkle Bruce meets Aquaman. I'll explain that in a bit. Sam Elliott's unscripted moment for A Star Is Born. He did an interview where he talked about a moment that if you've seen that movie, you will remember that one camera shot. Also, we're going to be talking a little Game of Thrones. We're going to be talking about Tyrion's end. We'll also be talking about Chris Evans possibly saying goodbye to the Marvel Universe. And also, we're going to be talking about Kraven the Hunter. So as usual, let's start. What is DC doing? The first thing in the segment today is quick. The first image of Ruby Rose's Batwoman has been released, and here it is. My first impression? It doesn't get more accurate than that. Moving on. What is DC doing? Just a warning, there's some spoilers for Gotham coming up here. That being said, I don't think they care about spoiling anything, but anyway, there's your warning. Do you know that I've actually never seen an episode of Gotham? For a show that I was excited about before it came out, I've still never watched it. Anyway, at New York Comic Con, it was announced that in the 5th and final season of the show, Shane West would be playing Bane, and spoiler, Bane will break Alfred's back. Also revealed was that the season would take place a decade later, and spoiler, we will be seeing Batman for the first time in the series finale. Boy, they just don't care if save anything as a surprise, do they? Oh wait, yeah, they did. They didn't announce when the season was coming out. Way to go, guys. Oh, and they showed a sizzle reel at the con as well, which I will put a link to in the description below. And this is why I'm saying they don't care about spoiling things, because my God, this sizzle reel looks like it gives up everything pretty much. Unless there's some stuff about that show that I don't know about. Anyway, what is DC doing? During the filming of Mission Impossible Fallout, you know, the movie that made Warner Brothers have to CGI Henry Cavill's magnificent mustache off, the movie's director Christopher McQuarrie and Henry Cavill had many discussions about a possible Man of Steel 2. You know, the movie that's never going to get made because sources said Cavill quit. In an interview, McQuarrie has said that many fans have asked him whether or not, if asked, if he would direct Man of Steel 2. And he said, quote, many people have asked many times. I had an awesome conversation with Henry Cavill about an awesome version of Superman while we were on set. You're sitting around for hours waiting for stuff to be built so I can put Henry in it and throw him off a cliff or freeze him to death, and we talked about a really awesome version of Superman, end quote. So I take it that would be a yes. He said that if another Superman movie is made, Cavill wants a film where the character is portrayed heroic and optimistic. I, along with many others, I'm sure, can see Cavill's point. The character recently has been portrayed as a conflicted, dark mess ever since Zack Snyder took the reins of the character. McQuarrie said that what Cavill wants and what those that make the movies want may be two entirely different things, though. Quote, That's the movie Henry wants. There's a really, really beautiful version of that, and I honestly can't speak for the people who are responsible for making those decisions, except to say it's part of a giant corporate mechanism. There has been nothing new to come out about Cavill's future involvement as Superman, even though everyone keeps insisting that he's done. For me, I still believe that the cape is still in the closet, as I believe it was his publicist said not too long ago. What is DC doing? So, most of the news that's been coming from the set of the new Joker movie has been pretty positive. I mean, we've seen pictures of Joaquin Phoenix and the makeup and them shooting scenes in a subway and everything like that. So yeah, been fairly positive. That is until now. Extras working. I also have to say this. I don't know what's happened in the story other than what I've read, but I always have to take it with one of those salt lick-sized grain of salt if TMZ is the one reporting it. Anyway, according to TMZ, extras working on the Joker movie were reportedly locked in subway cars for over 3 hours and were forced to urinate on the train tracks. Sources say the extras began calling for bathroom breaks after 2 hours of work, but were denied, and finally had to relieve themselves through the small spaces between cars. There are now reports that the Screen Actors Guild have received an official complaint about the alleged incident and will now be monitoring the set. Warner Brothers has said that they are looking into it. Who knows what's really going on, or what has happened during the filming of this movie. But this isn't stopping a ton of publications from pointing out the Joker effect on movies, such as how many blame the death of Heath Ledger on him playing the Joker, and how Jared Leto became very weird towards his co-stars on the set of Suicide Squad. And look, I know I said, take it with a grain of salt because it's TMZ especially, but yeah, and this may have happened. I don't know. That being said, I'm sure we'll be talking about this more in the future. And finally, what is DC doing? In what is probably one of the boldest moves Warner Brothers has ever made, they have decided to hire James Gunn, fresh from his firing from Disney, to write and possibly direct Suicide Squad 2. The deal was made after Gunn was settled out of his Guardians 3 contracts and all that stuff by Disney. While him writing the movie has been confirmed, him directing it has not. That being said, the movie is without a director at the moment. Gavin O'Connor, the director of Warrior and The Accountant, among other things, was set to direct the movie but left over conflicting reports. Some said it was stress, some said it was creative differences. The reason doesn't really matter. He's not doing the movie anymore. If you ask me, I think that when DC knew they were going to get Gunn, they asked O'Connor to step aside. It's not like he's at odds with the studio. He's making a movie called Torrance for Warner Brothers. And get this, with Ben Affleck. And by the way, who you'll remember that I'm predicting is done with Batman. You can hear about my theories on that from a couple of podcasts ago when I gave my big 3, technically 4 movie, if you count the Batman movie, my whole 3 or 4 movie arc that I think they're doing with the Joker, starting with this Joker movie. So do I think James Gunn is perfect for this project? It's simple. He's coming from a movie about misfit criminals that have to come together to fight evil despite their differences and eventually learn that they can rely on each other, to a movie about misfit criminals that have come together to fight evil despite their differences and eventually learn that they can rely on each other. Long story short, he successfully did it twice if you count Guardians 2. So I'm pretty sure he'll be able to do it again. I do think that this is a pretty smart move for Warner Brothers. One constant flaw in the Me Too movement from some sides is, where is the forgiveness? How does someone that has been accused of something how are they to move on? My thoughts on Gunn's tweets, the more I've gotten to think about it, are pretty similar to Gunn's own thoughts on them. It was 10 years ago, and he said some stupid shit while trying to be funny. He wasn't funny, but he was trying to be funny. To our knowledge, he has never assaulted anyone, and if, say, a comedian had said something similar during a stage set, they might be criticized. Think of Daniel Tosh making rape jokes, for an example. But it would be chalked up to just bad comedy. This move by Warner Brothers shows that a studio can have forgiveness. Forgiveness that Disney seemed unwilling to show. I've said before on a previous podcast that Disney should have used this situation for their own forgiveness PR, so to speak. And it probably would have worked for them and maybe even humanized them a little bit. Now, after hearing this, I know that many of you are wondering, where is Dave Bautista in all of this? Of course, I'm glad you asked, because of course, he's already spoken up about it. Simply put, in a tweet, Bautista said this of the news of Gunn being involved with Suicide Squad 2. Quote, "Where do I sign up?" Bautista has already stated in the past that he didn't know if he wanted to, quote, work for Disney anymore. Well, I know this isn't Warner Brothers, say, stealing Robert Downey Jr. from Marvel. It can be argued that Bautista's take on Drax the Destroyer took a character that made a lot of people say, who the hell is that guy, into a character that is now a cult favorite. Bautista has brought a ton of likability and straight man humor to a role that could have easily been pretty generic. I think losing him would be a bit of a blow to Marvel. Like I said, it wouldn't be, say, losing one of a Chris Hemsworth or something like that. But still, that would be a big body blow to Marvel, I think. So what do you think? Did DC make the right move? Is Gunn the right guy for the job? How bad of a hit will Disney take for not giving Gunn another chance? Will Bautista leave Guardians 3 for Suicide Squad 2? Who should he play? So many questions. All right, moving on. Will James Bond ever be female? The debate about who will be the next James Bond has been going on forever, it seems. Ever since Sean Connery quit. It's always been, who's next? In recent years, there have been calls for Bond to change. He should be another race, another gender, etc. While many still hold hopes that Idris Elba will be the one that breaks the race barrier, we do have an answer about the gender question, sort of. The decades-long executive producer of Bond, Barbara Broccoli, has stated that you shouldn't get your hopes up for a female Bond. She said, quote, "Bond is male. He's a male character. He was written as a male, and I think he'll probably stay as a male. And that's fine. We don't have to turn male characters into women." Now, I'm sure a lot of people that just heard me read that statement will hang on the fact that she said probably and still want this to happen, but I have to side with her on this. Now, before you think I'm being a sexist pig or something like that, let me bring you to her next point, which explains why I agree with her. She said this, quote, "Let's just create more female characters and make the story fit those female characters." For me, while they haven't done so well in the past at trying to create really empowering female characters, I'm talking about you, Jinx. I think Naomi Harris's take on Moneypenny was pretty fantastic and continues to be fantastic. She's one of the better parts of the Daniel Craig Bond movies, even when those movies weren't good. I'm looking at you, Quantum of Solace, and Spectre, and this plays into another thing that Broccoli commented on. She talked about the advancement of how women have been viewed in the more current Bond films. Quote, "I've tried to do my part, and I think particularly with the Daniel Craig films, they've become much more current in terms of the way women are viewed," end quote. Now, well, I can't say they've been perfect recently. They have made some strides in trying to get with the times, so to speak, with the Bond movies. Also, and I know I've made this point before, if you want to see what a female Bond would be like, watch Atomic Blonde. And think about this. How awesome would a crossover between her and James Bond be? All right, moving on. I want to talk about Telltale Games for a second. I'm not going to say I'm not a fan of their games. I think what they've done is cool, but I haven't really got to play a lot of the games. But in this day and age, it's rare that shows, movies, games, or whatever get a chance to finish what they've started if things aren't going as well as the ones bringing them had hoped. This seemed to be the fate of the Telltale series, The Walking Dead, as well. Long story short, Telltale Games began having problems in November 2017. The company laid off nearly a quarter of its workforce, which would have been about 90 people. And in March, reports surfaced of a toxic management culture and a continual grind that burned out many of its developers. I mean, I can believe that. They always seem to be releasing something. In September, they laid off another 250 employees without severance, by the way, in a move the company called a, quote, majority studio closure. Telltale was set to continue the popular series The Wolf Among Us with a second season and start a game based on Netflix's Stranger Things, but those projects, well, they're not happening. At least as of right now. One game that was near storyline completion and that a lot of gamers had spent a lot of time on was The Walking Dead. The fourth and final season had already begun, with the second episode at the time set to come out very soon. But the layoffs put an end to that for a bit. While Telltale has gotten some flack for shopping around the game to third-party developers because of the way they are treating their former employees, this has not stopped them from making a deal to complete the game. Skybound is set to take over the production of the final season of the game from Telltale. From a fan perspective, why is this an important move? Because Skybound is owned by the one and only Robert Kirkman, creator of The Walking Dead. During the Walking Dead panel at New York Comic-Con, Kirkman said, quote, "We've successfully negotiated with Telltale Games for our company Skybound to come in and see Season 4 of the Telltale game to completion," end quote. According to the official statement from Skybound, the company has, quote, "taken ownership of Telltale's The Walking Dead, the final season, and will finish the season. Skybound will work with members of the original Telltale team to finish the story in a way the fans deserve. Skybound will continue to update fans on the status of the game on skybound.com, Twitter, and Facebook." And now on Twitter, Skybound posted a message saying, quote, "We're so happy to announce that we've reached a deal with Telltale Games that will allow Skybound to continue The Walking Dead, the final season. Let's wrap up Clem's story right. More details to come soon." While Skybound is probably best known for its comics division, last April they announced a new game publishing division led by 505 Games co-founder Ian Howe. Some of the games that they have released so far are The Walking Dead Road to Survival, Super Fight, and Giant Cop Justice above all. During the panel for The Walking Dead, Kirkman joked to the audience, quote, "The world can't lose Andrew Lincoln and Clementine in the same year," end quote. So what do you think? Is this a good way to go? Did the games deserve a proper ending? I only played the first episode, so I don't know. Do you think that them finishing the game is an insult to the former employees if they end up not being involved? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. All right, next story. Grunkle Bruce meets Aquaman? Okay, so there's a bit of a tradition at Comic-Cons where celebrities will dress up in costume to be able to wander around the convention unnoticed. Andrew Garfield once dressed up in a low-budget Spider-Man costume. Mark Hamill, who's very famous for doing this, is dressed up as a stormtrooper, despite being a little short to be one. Bryan Cranston walked around with the mask of himself, well, a Heisenberg mask to be exact, and nobody knew it was him until he took off that mask at a panel. At this year's New York Comic-Con, this was no exception. Mark Ruffalo, as in Marvel's Bruce Banner, aka Hulk, dressed as Grunkle Stan from Gravity Falls, went through Jason Momoa's photo op line, as in Aquaman, and got his picture taken. The duo then shared the celebrity reveal later on Ruffalo's Twitter page. He also posted pictures that he took with kids at the convention dressed as, personally, my favorite character from Gravity Falls. And after he posted these things, it came to the attention of Gravity Falls creator and Grunkle Stan voice actor Alex Hirsch. Hirsch posted a video of a puppet Stan declaring that he will not stand for such hideous impersonations of himself. And he said, quote, "Ruffalo!" yelled Puppet Stan. "I'm calling you out, Ruffalo. I'll see you in my DMs." Now, if you want to see both of these videos, I've put a link to a story that has both of them in it in the description below. Moving on. I want to talk about Sam Elliott's unscripted moment for A Star Is Born. Now, warning, this story might be a bit of a spoiler for A Star Is Born. Not really, but I have to talk about a moment in the film. If you haven't seen it, you really should, because, well, it's great. And again, I'll try not to go into too much detail. But I wanted to talk about this after reading an article with Sam Elliott, who plays Bradley Cooper's character's much older brother. In the interview, Elliott talked about a very emotional scene in the movie where the two brothers have a moment. This moment causes Elliott to begin to tear up a bit. It turns out that him tearing up was very real and very unscripted. Elliott said of the moment, quote, "This speaks," and by the way, I cannot do his voice justice. That man has the voice. Quote, "This speaks of Bradley as an actor-director. We pulled into the driveway after having the words on the road, and then the door opened and Bradley just stood there, and he kind of hemmed and hawed, and I wasn't sure what was going to come out of his mouth. I knew the gist of it, but I didn't really know what he was going to say. And then he said what he said and shut the door and was out of the shot, and somebody handed him a little monitor, and all of a sudden he was the director. I was still trying to be in the moment of what I was doing, but I was watching Cooper walk around the truck, and he was looking at this monitor. The monitor was the camera behind me, and the only reason I turned around was to back out of the shot. It wasn't to show my face. That's where I was at the moment. I figured we were going to do another take, and he just said, 'No, man, we got it.' That was the first take. It's one of those wonderful moments that you get to have or you don't. There were a lot of those moments in this piece, and it's because of Bradley's ability to create that environment and give you the chance to give you the chance to get at that truth. He's a wonderful director." Now, in this movie, this is one of the scenes, one of the shots in the movie that you will remember, and it is also one that I have a feeling may nab Sam Elliott some awards recognition coming soon for supporting actor. If you want to hear his velvety smooth voice talk about the movie and say that big quote way better than I can, I will put a link to the interview in the description below. Let's move on to some Game of Thrones. Tyrion Lannister, played by the amazing Peter Dinklage, is arguably the best character on Game of Thrones. While he's not my favorite, that would be the Hound, I still love the character and think that Dinklage is damn near perfect in the role. Because Game of Thrones is entering its final season, many people are trying to get the scoop on what's going to happen to their favorite characters, and Tyrion Lannister is definitely no exception. Dinklage was asked about the final season of the show in a recent interview, and he was very confident in his response. He said, quote, "I think it's going to be the best season of television anyone has ever seen. It takes you to a place that you never saw coming, that I didn't see coming. Just be prepared. It's a fun ride." He also commented on the show's co-creators, Dan Weiss and David Benioff, saying that they are, quote, "the best writers in television," and promising, quote, "they end it brilliantly, better than I could have imagined, and you people are in for it." As for how things will end for Tyrion, Will he get to continue to drink and know things, or will he play the Game of Thrones and die? Well, Dinklage had a very simple answer. He said, quote, "It ends beautifully for my character, whether it be tragic or not." So, those of you that watch the show, how do you think things are going to end up for Tyrion? How do you think things will end up for your favorite characters? Who will sit on the Iron Throne at the end? Will the White Walkers win? This one's a personal one for me. Who will kill the Mountain? The Hound? Brianna Tarth? Arya Stark? Arya's direwolf Nymeria? Someone else? A combo of people? Can you tell what's the most important part of this show for me as a fan of the Hound? But yeah, I am so looking forward to the end of Game of Thrones. I'm sad to see it end, but we are going to get 6 huge episodes of them putting everything into the show. And of course, we still don't know when it's coming out, except for they said the first half of 2019. And whenever it is, I can't wait for it, but I am ready for it. Next, we're going to be talking about Chris Evans. Chris Evans says goodbye. While we have been speculating for a long time now that Chris Evans was done playing Captain America, it seems now that this could soon be a reality. Over Twitter this week, Evans commented on his finishing up his work on Avengers 4, but it seemed like he might be saying goodbye to a lot more than just a movie set. He said, quote, "Officially wrapped on Avengers 4. It was an emotional day to say the least. Playing this role over the last 8 years has been an honor. To everyone in front of the camera, behind the camera, and in the audience, thank you for the memories. Eternally grateful." Now, unless he is just trying to fool everybody, which I don't think he is, it certainly sounds like he was saying goodbye to the role for good. It really shouldn't come as a surprise. Evans has been talking about leaving and/or wanting to do other projects for some time now. While I'm pretty sure that Evans is done playing Captain America, part of me has a feeling that he will end up behind a camera for a future Marvel movie someday. If this is goodbye, I'd like to say that I think Evans handled that part as well as anyone could have hoped. I know he wasn't a fan of wearing the costume at times. I know he thought he looked kind of silly in the Avengers because the costume was a little cartoony. They definitely made it better in later movies. But despite his issues, despite that, he still put on really good performances in some of the better Marvel movies. So what do you think of the future? What do you think of what's the future of the character going to be? Do you think he's really done? Do you think Bucky will take over as the captain, or will they skip him and give it to Falcon? Will anybody take over? Honestly, for me, I think we are going to see Bucky get it for a bit, and when he returns to being the Winter Soldier, Falcon will take over. Probably getting a good, maybe 5-6 movies out of that. I even hope that they have Hawkeye try out the shield the way he did in the comics after Cap died, because they wanted him to be Captain America for a bit. I guess no matter what, we're going to be finding out next year after Avengers 4 is over. For our last big story, I want to talk about Kraven the Hunter. I know this is just kind of an out of the nowhere kind of thing. Kraven the Hunter. So, after seeing Venom and reading this story that I'm going to be talking about, I have this feeling that I'm going to have to start a "What is Sony doing with Marvel" segment. I kid. I don't want to start another segment like that. What is DC doing is killing me. No, I'm kidding. But I read a story today that has me wondering if Sony really knows what the hell it really wants to do with its non-Spideyverse. The writer for the Kraven the Hunter movie, which, did you even remember that this existed? The writer of the movie, Richard Wink, gave a bit of a confusing update on the movie. He pretty much said, Sony and everyone else has pretty much said that Spider-Man wasn't going to show up in Venom anytime soon. But Wink said this, quote, "It is in the Spider-Man universe. It's going to adhere very closely to the lore of Kraven the Hunter, and he is going to come face to face with Spider-Man, end quote. While directors like Venom's Ruben Fleischer said he'd like to see Spidey cross paths with Venom someday, nobody has ever given a solid yes, Spidey is showing up before now. One thing that makes me think he'll have his mind changed, so to speak, is that this movie is still in early development. A lot can change from now until then. Now, one possibility could be that they could bring in the Spidey from the upcoming Spider-Verse movie into this. They could bring that Peter Parker in. Because at the end credits of Venom, they do say somewhere in another universe, hinting that the live-action Venom and the cartoon Spider-Man movie could be connected. It'd be a pretty ballsy move to have two live-action Spider-Men out there. Another option is that they could use Miles Morales as well. It just makes me think, Sony, it makes me wonder, what are they up to? That's all our big stories for today. On to quick hits. A new image in the first footage from the new Hellboy movie was shown at New York Comic Con, and in that footage, as far as I know, and on this picture here, there is no sign of Abe Sapien anywhere, which makes me sad. Hashtag Doug Jones. Speaking of the new Hellboy, David Harbour issued a challenge that said if a tweet could get 666,000 retweets, he'd officiate a wedding in the full Hellboy costume for ComingSoon.net's Spencer Perry. He also said that he'd knock off 500,000 retweets if Hellboy creator Mike Mignola would read a poem at the service. Mignola did say yes, but that Harbour would have to write the poem. The tweet is currently at about 35,000 retweets. They better get on it. Perry gets married in March of 2019. The 10-episode prequel, The Dark Crystal, The Age of Resistance, finished filming last week, and some details were shared at New York Comic Con. Director Louis Leterrier, if I said that right, Louis Leterrier said, quote, "We're not using CGI on this one. It's puppets, man. Puppets. Yeah, this project would not have worked if you hadn't used puppets." Next story. This is no real surprise, but a welcome announcement. Bullseye is coming to season 3 of Daredevil. I cannot wait for next week. It's no secret that the character of Wee Huey in the comic book The Boys was inspired by Simon Pegg. In 2015, Adam McKay was trying to get Pegg to play the part in the film version that never got made. Now Pegg will be involved with the project based on the comic after all. He's been cast to play the father of Wee Huey for Amazon's The Boys, based on Garth Ennis and Derek Robertson's comic. Wee Huey will be played by Jack Quaid, the son of Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan. Also, Carl Urban is in the show, playing the character Billy Butcher. Janelle Monáe has been cast for Disney's live-action version of Lady and the Tramp. Monáe has been cast as Peg, a fellow stray that Lady, played by Tessa Thompson, meets at the pound, who gives our protagonist some crucial life advice. The Dragon Prince is getting a season 2 on Netflix, as well it should. Chris Evans and Sorry to Bother You star Lakeith Stanfield are set to join Daniel Craig and Rian Johnson's Knives Out. While that's pretty cool in its own right, Michael Shannon is also in talks to join the movie, and if he signs on, that will move that movie up just a bit on my most anticipated list of 2019. The Rock is set to star in John Henry and the Statesman, which is too bad. He's already playing Black Adam, because I would love to see him play DC's John Henry, aka Steel. I mean, I know Shaq nailed it the first time, like he nails free throws, but The Rock would have fit that part pretty well. Michael Pena has signed on to play Mr. Rourke in the Fantasy Island film. Dave Bautista is also in talks for the movie as well, and if he signs on, he will play, quote, a former guest who is still on the island against his will and who wants to expose Rourke and the island's magical secrets. The movie is being described as Westworld meets Cabin in the Woods. Malcolm McDowell has been cast to play Rupert Murdoch in the Fox News movie, which may or may not be called Fair and Balanced. And speaking of that movie, the Fox News movie has been dropped by Annapurna weeks before production, though both Focus Features and Bronze Studios are rumored to be picking it up. Annapurna is said to have passed on the movie based on budget concerns. Now, I can't imagine a movie starring John Lithgow, Charlize Theron, Margot Robbie, Malcolm McDowell, for starters, would be expensive. I mean, they still have to cast Sean Hannity, Bill O'Reilly, and many other personalities of the network at the time. After we talked about The Mandalorian on last week's program, the first image for the show was revealed, as I'm showing here, and I like to imagine Pedro Pascal in that armor. World War Z 2 is still supposed to begin shooting next summer, with David Fincher still attached to direct and Brad Pitt still attached to star. My only concern is, will the Pepsi can return? And lastly, in quick hits, well, holy shit. The Walking Dead Season 9 premiere is the lowest rated in series history. Well, that's no real surprise there, Rick. And that's the end of quick hits for this week. I want to talk about the future of the show for a bit now. There's not going to be a Get on the Mic next week because I'm working on a new bi-weekly live format for the podcast, which will probably debut in a couple weeks. I love doing this show, and I talked about it on the low budget live stream, which I'll talk about here in a second. I was doing a live stream test, just to see if it worked. Because the only time I ever tried to live stream anything, I tried live streaming my first playthrough of Max Payne 3, and something went wrong. Let's put it that way. The audio and the video ended up being off, and something was weird, and it didn't work. But I wanted to try it, and I tried YouTube's webcam version of live streaming, and it seemed to work. And though I love doing this program, the prep time for this program, I'm prepping this program every day. Even after days where I would record this, that day and the next day I was already looking for stories for the next week. And it's just very hard to do sometimes. So what I want to do is I want to do it live, like every other week. I'm not sure which day, but I believe I'm looking at Friday at 8 p.m. Central Time. That way, if I have a movie Friday, I can still go see it. I'd get out of the movie around 7, then come home and get ready for the podcast. And doing it this way will make it more interactive for you guys. On Twitter, I'll probably say, okay, this is what we're going to be talking about later. So if you have questions or whatever about them or comments, you can be ready for that. And I'll talk about the stories, and we can all talk about it online. And that way, it'll be more than just me talking on a mic. And I know the show is called Get on the Mic, but I want it to be more than just me on a microphone with notes talking about the more interesting things that have happened in the world of entertainment or whatever else I feel like talking about. I want it to be that, but I also want you guys to comment on it. Well, be able to comment on it as well. And I had such a good time on that live stream, and some of you might have been able to tell I was nervous as hell doing that thing live by myself. But because man, I have these lights up here, and they were hot, and it was hot down here, and I'm not gonna say the whiskey was helping, but yeah, we had a good time, and if I do get on the mic that way, I think it'd be a good time too. But like I said, I'm probably going to make it a bi-weekly program. And again, I'm probably looking at Fridays at 8 p.m. Central. I'm not sure if that's when it's going to be, but as of right now, I think that's the time I'm looking at. I also am thinking about doing more low-budget live streams. Now, those will probably be bi-weekly or maybe once a month. I'm not sure yet. they would probably be on the same week as Get on the Mic, but those would be more of a just kind of like, well, here, what do we want to talk about today kind of things. I'll say, I don't know. I had a good time not knowing what we were going to talk about. We ended up talking about WWE, UFC, and anything else you guys thought of. So I want to kind of do it that way. But I'm not sure if I'm doing it once a month or twice a month. It isn't going to be weekly. But yeah, I'm definitely looking into how I'm going to do both these live streams. And by doing them this way, especially Get on the Mic, that'll give me more time to be able to watch more shows for videos, and I just won't feel so burnt out. Granted, I'll probably burn myself out adding new things to the channel, but anyway, I had such a good time with that live stream that I think that's how I just decided, I'm like, this would be the good way to do this program where it's just not me yammering on like I am doing right now. I also want to point, as always, your attention to the small YouTuber spotlight video. Please share that video with all your friends and family. And again, if you know smaller YouTubers or you are a smaller YouTuber, post your link to your channel in the description of that video. You can find a link to that video in the description of this video. A bit of a channel update. Be checking out the channel this weekend for Talking Movies. I'll be seeing Goosebumps 2, Haunted Halloween, First Man, and Bad Times at the El Royale. That last one I'm really looking forward to. Geno's Bad at Games. I just finished my playthrough of Valiant Hearts, The Great War, and it kicked me in the stomach a lot. That game, the story it's a tearjerker. I knew it was going to be, but I wasn't prepared for it. It still got me. I teared up on that finale. And I'm not sure what I'm starting next. I think I know what I want to start next. In the next couple weeks, I'll be starting a new game. For crossing streams, I took a short look at Mobile Suit Gundam UC or Unicorn or whatever it's called on Netflix, but honestly, I couldn't get into it. So I stopped watching it after an episode. And I know there might be more. I don't know. I just could not get into the story. And I'm that way with anime a lot. I may take another look at it at a later time, but I didn't feel like dedicating, I believe it's 7 or 9 hours. I think it's 7 hours to it when I wasn't into it. But if you've seen it, let me know if it is worth binge watching. Let me know why you think it's worth binge watching. I also got to check out the first 3 episodes of Star Wars Resistance. So, excuse me, I'll probably have a video next week coming out about that. And I may do weekly videos on each episode of the season. I haven't decided yet, or I just may wait till the end of the season. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that one. Daredevil Season 3 comes out next week, so be expecting a video on that. And after I get to watch it, I took a vacation day for that. Also, Check Your Sources continues on the channel. On Wednesdays, we're playing a game that plays a little on the honor system. To play along, I give you some source stories, and I ask that you don't go looking up these source stories. After I say them, try to figure out on your own which of the 3 is one that I made up. I'm having a little fun making up these stories because I kind of get to think, what would I want to see, and what would a source say, or how would a source say it? So I've been having a good time with that. Also, to find any video that I've been involved in on YouTube or videos from those either officially or unofficially under the GB3 umbrella, make sure to check out the GB3 family playlist on the channel. Make sure to follow me on Twitter, and if you really want to, on Facebook, even though I still don't like them. If you want the latest info on this channel, definitely follow me on Twitter, because that's where I'm probably going to make most of the announcements, especially those involving the live streams. I also want to draw your attention to my buddy Heisenerd's channel. Bill is still playing Dragon Quest XI. He is playing it a lot. We didn't get a chance to play this last Monday. Some things came up for both of us, and we couldn't reschedule for this week, but we'll be back. I'm not sure if we're going to be playing Shadowgate again. or if we're going to be playing something. We were discussing playing something for Halloween, so I'm not sure what we're going to be doing the next time we play. As always, thank you guys for the support, and especially those of you that showed up for the live stream the other day. I wasn't sure how many people show up, and I'm not going to say I was drawing, like internet blood sport numbers or anything, but those of you that showed up, I think had a good time. I had a good time talking with you guys, and you guys asked some great questions and made me think on my feet a little bit. One issue I have, and especially doing some of my stuff, is sometimes I over prepare, and it makes it, I don't know if I would say it makes it feel less spontaneous or anything, but sometimes I over prepare for things and I overthink things, and you guys made me think on my feet a little bit that day, asking me those questions, and I'm like, okay, think quick. And I did have a little bit of trouble remembering some names of actors and things like that, and some of you could probably tell, but either way, I had a great time talking with you guys, and I'm definitely looking forward to doing it again, even though I'll still probably be as nervous as hell. That's going to be all for this episode of Get on the Mic. If you like what you've heard here, please subscribe to the Reel Geno YouTube channel, like this video, and if you have anything to say about any of these stories, please feel free to leave a comment in the section below. Until next time, I'm your host, the Reel Geno, Geno Reynolds. See you later, next time in 2 weeks, live. Peace.